Hello. Today, I will tell you about a case from the 1980s that was originally left unsolved. However, after nearly 30 years, a detective decided to reopen the investigation. After studying the key details, the detective finally made a breakthrough in the case of Karen Strom. The main character is 25-year-old Karen Strom, an extroverted woman who was well-liked by her friends. She lived in Woods Cross Davis County, Utah, near the Great Salt Lake. This area boasts beautiful scenery and is home to the largest saltwater lake in the Western Hemisphere. Karen grew up with her father and met Steve Strom in high school. It was love at first sight. They married right after high school and, like many newlyweds, enjoyed a sweet and happy life early on. However, over time, their happiness faded and cracks began to appear in their relationship. After 3 or 4 years, Karen could no longer endure the situation and decided to separate, moving in with her stepmother. But soon after, tragedy struck. What happened that day and what did Karen have to endure? Next, let's turn back time to June 5th, 1980, which was a Thursday. Steve Karen's husband had called her days earlier to invite her home for a birthday dinner. Since their anniversary was also near, Karen agreed. After dinner, she stayed at his house while Steve went to work as usual. He worked the night shift at a factory by the Great Salt Lake from 12:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. The next morning, after work, Steve called Karen to wake her for work, but she didn't answer despite several attempts. Worried that something was wrong, he immediately rushed back home. Upon arriving, Steve checked the kitchen for any notes from Karen but found nothing. He then ran to the bedroom, and upon opening the door, he was stunned by the sight. He found Karen lying face down with blood on her neck. Terrified, he quickly called the police. The police arrived shortly after, but tragically, Karen had already passed away. Investigators soon arrived at the scene to gather evidence. They found Karen in her pajamas, face down with her legs against the wall, showing clear signs of strangulation. There were also scratches, and the bedding and pillows were scattered across the floor. The TV had fallen from its stand but was still plugged in with the screen on. 2 brass bars from the headboard had been knocked loose, with one falling to the floor. Police concluded there had been a violent struggle, though the rest of the house was undisturbed. The back sliding door was barred from inside and the front door lock was intact. With the windows undamaged, police deduced Karen either let the killer in or they had a key. A fierce struggle ensued, as evidenced by the defensive scratches on her arms. Ultimately, the killer strangled her to death with both hands. Police suspected it was someone she knew. Following this lead, investigators immediately began questioning Karen's inner circle. Reports surfaced of recent marital disputes, which Steve admitted were ongoing. They had been separated for a while, with Karen living with her mother, but were recently trying to reconcile. On the night of the murder, he had taken her to dinner, and their relationship seemed to be improving. His claims were partially corroborated by Karen's stepmother. She confirmed the dinner date, but noted that Karen had no intention of actually getting back together with him. She added that Karen had expressed her plan to officially file for divorce from Steve at that time. Believing the marriage was dead, the stepmother had urged Karen not to go to the dinner. Karen insisted it was just a meal and wouldn't change her decision to divorce. She planned to use the opportunity to discuss the divorce terms with him. This testimony made investigators feel that Steve's motive for murder had significantly increased. They brought Steve back for questioning, which took an unexpected turn. Steve claimed to know the killer's identity, Karen's new boyfriend, a man named Buff. He said Karen met Buff after their separation and would go to him for comfort whenever she was upset. Steve suggested their close bond might have made Buff jealous of his marriage to Karen. He hypothesized that Buff killed Karen in a jealous rage. The police immediately located Buff, Karen's boyfriend. Buff was cooperative and denied any involvement in the murder. He maintained that he and Karen loved each other deeply and were happy, and he only wanted her to be herself. Karen's family and friends noted that her relationship with her husband was quite poor. In contrast, she was always cheerful around Buff, and they didn't believe he could ever hurt her. They believed Steve was the jealous one, and since Buff had an alibi, he was cleared as a suspect. Consequently, the police ruled Buff out, and that lead went cold. The forensic pathologist's autopsy report was eventually released. Due to the technical limitations of the era, the exact time of death could not be determined. They could only estimate based on the state of digestion of her last meal. Experts estimated that Karen died sometime between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Steve's shift began at 12:30 a.m., but he arrived late and clocked in at 12:45 a.m. The drive from his home to the factory took about 25 to 30 minutes, which was relatively short. Given the estimated time of death, police suspected Steve might have finished the deed before work. His co-workers reported that Steve acted completely normal when he arrived for his shift. He didn't seem flustered or anxious and showed no unusual behavior. Later, another name was brought up: Steve's colleague Edward Lewis Owens. Steve and Owens were close friends who often drank, hunted, and fished together. Because Steve worked the night shift and Owens worked the mid-shift, Steve shifted his suspicion toward Owens. The police quickly tracked down Owens. Upon finding him, they noticed several small scratches on his face and arms. This discovery naturally increased the police's suspicion of his involvement. Owens explained the scratches were caused by metal debris at his workplace. The factory supervisor confirmed that being scratched by flying metal shards was common for machine operators. He attributed the bruise on his face to accidentally hitting his head on equipment while reaching for something. As for his timeline, he said he went to a bar after work to drink and play pool with colleagues. They drank from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. and he returned to the factory by 4:30 a.m. He had a solid alibi that was corroborated by his co-workers. The investigation showed Owens had no real connection to Karen, and they rarely crossed paths. Finding no motive, the police eventually cleared Owens of suspicion as well. As per procedure, DNA and hair samples from Owens were collected and preserved. Additionally, photographs of his injuries were taken to be kept as evidence. Since both of Steve's suggested suspects were cleared, police began to suspect Steve was lying. He had inconsistent statements and the strongest motive of anyone involved. Furthermore, Steve had no alibi for the window of time when Karen was killed. Theoretically, he had more than enough time to commit the crime. Consequently, the police issued a warrant and charged him with first-degree murder. All evidence related to the case was subsequently presented in court. However, the evidence was purely circumstantial and lacked any definitive proof. In December 1980, the court acquitted Steve of the charges and he was set free. Karen's relatives were outraged by the verdict, and the case officially went cold. Still, Karen's sister Coco Saltzgiver refused to give up and continued searching for the killer. She made finding the truth her life's primary goal, hoping for justice one day. In 2006, 26 years later, Coco made her habitual trip to the police station for an update. She had been making these visits consistently for over 2 decades. Police always gave the same "no new leads" answer, having essentially abandoned the case long ago. A detective named Benson was deeply moved by the sisters' unwavering persistence. He decided to take a fresh look at the 26-year-old cold case. After reviewing the file, Benson requested permission from his superiors to officially reopen it. Working with Coco, he gathered enough to get the case reopened in January 2007. Detective Benson carefully re-examined all the physical evidence from the original scene. He looked at Karen's fingernails and suspected the killer's DNA might be trapped underneath. Back in 1980, DNA technology wasn't yet an available tool for solving crimes. Therefore, no DNA testing had been done on Karen's nails at that time, so Benson immediately sent them to the lab for analysis. While waiting for the test results, Benson called one of the suspects, Owens. When the call connected, Detective Benson said, "Hello, I'm Detective Benson, and I'm reinvestigating Karen's case. I hope you can answer a few questions for me." On the other end of the line, Owens sounded extremely anxious, his voice trembling as he dodged many of Benson's questions. This gave Benson a vague feeling that Owens might know the inside story of the case, and the DNA report soon confirmed his suspicion. The results revealed traces of both Steve's and Owens's DNA on the fingernails. Subsequently, Benson asked the forensic pathologist to reevaluate Karen's time of death. Using more advanced technology based on recorded body and ambient temperatures from that time, pathologists determined she died around 12:30 a.m. We know Steve clocked in at the factory at 12:45 a.m. and the drive from his home takes at least 25 minutes. Had he committed the murder, the earliest he could have reached the factory would be around 12:55 a.m. Therefore, suspicion against Steve could largely be ruled out. As for Owens, he had an alibi for that time frame, having drank at a bar from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. the next day. So, why was Owens's DNA on Karen's nails? Detective Benson then tracked down the co-workers who had been drinking with Owens that night. According to their recollection, they drank and played pool together, but they weren't sure Owens was with them the entire night. Thus, it was possible Owens had left and returned to them at some point during the night. They also recalled noticing scratches on Owens the next day, which he claimed were from playing with his dog, a stark contrast to his initial claim of a workplace injury. At that point, police considered Owens a prime suspect and wanted to bring him in for questioning, but they were a step too late. He had left a farewell letter for his wife stating he would never return and had fled. His credit card records showed he fled to Texas before moving to Mexico, plunging the case back into a quagmire. By March 2007, the case took another turn when police received word that Owens had run out of money and could no longer survive in Mexico. Knowing he had to return to the U.S. detective, Benson contacted Owens and said, "I have enough evidence to request a warrant for your arrest. I demand you turn yourself in immediately." With no way out, Owens surrendered at the police station to face first-degree murder charges. During his arrest, police uncovered his dark past. In 1972, a woman named Kimberly was walking on Hermosa Beach, California. Owens ambushed her, intending to assault her, and strangled her with his hands in an attempt to kill her. Kimberly fought with all her might and eventually escaped calling the police, who subsequently arrested Owens. He stood trial in California, where Kimberly identified him as her attacker, but his family provided an alibi leading to his acquittal. That case was closed, and history seemed to repeat itself with Karen's case. Owens's family hired a top lawyer from California to defend him. Upon arriving, the lawyer presented a damning conclusion. The DNA on Karen's nails wasn't from skin flakes, but from semen. Therefore, he argued it wasn't murder, but evidence of a consensual sexual encounter, implying the two were having an affair. Furthermore, the lawyer claimed Owens had only gone to Texas to visit a friend, and then visited a Mexican border town for a brief getaway. During that time, he learned he might face murder charges, which was the real reason he returned. Following this, prosecutors dropped the case against Owens due to insufficient evidence, and he was released. Detective Benson repeatedly reviewed all physical evidence from 1980, hoping to find even the smallest shred of proof. He had the crime scene photos digitally enhanced, hoping the computer analysis would reveal any overlooked details. After tireless efforts, Benson finally spotted a barely visible red dot on one of Karen's garments that looked like a drop of blood. He immediately contacted the lab and requested they test the red dot. Though the decades-old blood droplet was tiny and hard to detect, the hard work paid off. A few days later, the report confirmed the blood belonged to Owens. Armed with this solid evidence, prosecutors reopened the case against Owens in March 2009. Faced with irrefutable proof in court, he finally confessed. May 21, 2009 was Owens's sentencing day, and events took yet another unexpected turn. While pleading guilty, Owens claimed he was the one who killed Karen, but the mastermind behind the entire plot was her husband, Steve. He alleged that months prior, Steve had approached him and asked him to do it, but he had initially refused. Afterwards, Steve bought a life insurance policy for Karen, ensuring a handsome payout if she met with an accident. Steve promised Owens half the money if everything went smoothly and gave him a key to the house. Upon entering, Owens claimed he didn't attack immediately, but instead urged Karen to leave, warning her that Steve wanted her dead and telling her to run away. However, Karen didn't believe his story at all. She even scolded him and tried to kick him out. At that point, he changed his mind and attempted to sexually assault her, but when she fought back, he ultimately strangled her with his bare hands. At the hearing, Steve naturally denied everything Owens had said. Police investigation revealed that Steve had indeed purchased an insurance policy for his wife. However, it was a standard factory benefit policy covering $50,000, so there was no way to use it to charge Steve. Finally, after 2 days of deliberation, the court found Owens guilty and sentenced him to life in prison. It took a total of 29 years to close the case. Without Detective Benson reopening it, it would have remained forever unsolved. Unfortunately, though the case was solved, we may never know if Owens's final story was true or if Steve was truly the mastermind. After the trial, media reporters interviewed Coco, who told them over the phone, "I know the man who murdered my sister is in prison, and he, Benson, did it." Ultimately, regarding whether Steve was the mastermind, an inscription on Karen's tombstone reads, "Only God knows." And see you in the next videos. Goodbye.